数々の難事件をピカッとひらめきで解決する。
Well, clearly, this character was based off of everyone's favorite copyright-friendly detective, Sherlock Holmes. And we open on Manatsu with a lottery ticket in hand, hoping to win a super-duper limited edition special melon bread. Because yeah, let's just get the kids addicted to gambling early on. Also, yeah, I would kind of question why they don't just make more of these things per year in spite of how much clear demand there was for it, but I'm more distracted by these overly dramatic cuts and slow-mo. Then again, all of that was probably just early signs for who wrote this episode. Anyway, Manatsu won the melon bread and took it with her to the club room. And upon closer inspection of this thing, it not only looked like a diabetic's worst nightmare, but also Patrick after a few dozen goofy goobers. I still prefer Fuko's pastries. However, before she could partake in her mountain of carbs and sugars, Manatsu was called in to pick up her wallet that she had forgotten at the cafeteria. Thus, she left the pastry alone in the club room, and as the title of the episode already gave away, it disappeared when she got back. This, of course, prompted a very natural reaction from Manatsu, which included her turning into a Yaneda, and a not-so-natural reaction from Minori, who put on a pair of Terminator 3 glasses. Gee, our characters are acting ever so slightly goofier than usual. I'm just gonna throw this out there and guess that this was written by Narita, yeah. Seriously, as soon as I saw the preview for this, I knew this was gonna be one of her episodes. Anyway, wanting to emulate her obvious Sherlock knockoff, Minori decided to investigate this incident, all the while needlessly pointing to everyone and everything. Gee, I wonder if this is a reference to something. Still, to her, and really to this episode's credit, they did lay out all of the clues that had been hinted earlier in the episode, like the elevator to the roof being broken, and Sango being the only witness to the stairs leading to it. Thus, being the last one Manatsu saw before she left the club room, the first suspect was of course their seal friend. Well, of course Kurun wouldn't eat a pastry. I mean, all they ever eat are those shell cookies. Wait. I mean, okay, maybe they're not normal cookies, but we've never really gotten clarification of what they're made from. Anyway, the next suspect was the other sea creature who happened to be in the room, and yeah, this almost seems too in character for her. Also, for whatever reason, Minori's glasses suddenly glowed every time she was about to solve the mystery. Gee, I wonder if this is a reference to something. Still, Laura denied the accusations, and even got someone to put the toy buffer behind her for dramatic effect. I mean, it's just so cheap to try and use a pretty beach shot as your background. Still, the questioning continued, and Minori proceeded to eventually accuse all of the club members other than Manatsu for stealing the dough. Okay, I was wrong. Clearly she got her detective skills from a different Sherlock knockoff. But yeah, they ended up using this same joke and format for each of the accusations, which on the one hand can be seen as a cheap way of cutting down on animation, and I wouldn't be surprised if that actually was the case. But at the same time, the setups for each were different and kind of over the top in their own unique ways. To me, this is how a repeated joke can be pulled off successfully, just by adding a tad bit of variance to it. As long as it's not the exact same joke every time, you can get away with some repetition 3 or 4 times in this case. Yeah, Minori herself ended up getting accused, which in of itself is kind of hilarious. Plus, all these sequences had this very unique watercolored art style that doesn't quickly become repetitive. As they say, variety is the spice of life, which is kind of appropriate considering what the focus of this episode is. Meanwhile, the lair of the witch, Chongie was dealing with his own stolen food mystery, which was quickly solved when he saw his cohorts eating it. And to give him even more of an ironic echo to Manatsu's situation, he won a lottery that forced him to be the villain of the week, and if that wasn't enough, he chose a bakery as his target.
Oh, now I get it!
At the same time, our heroines were at each other's necks due to all of the accusations, but in a good moment for Manatsu, she insisted they put all of that aside and deal with the Yaneda, likely having recognized that she and her stupid pastry caused all of this. This resulted in the first 5-member roll call of the season, which was good. I like seeing them coming out of the water, though I think Laura might have broken her back here. Also, when are we gonna get the second version of the OP? Don't think I forgot about that. Anyway, decent fight this week with smoother animation than usual, and most of all, Minori actually using her eye beams more than once. Seriously, do they just forget she has that sometimes? Though they did go off model a little, especially during this kicking sequence, and apparently they also weren't using great teamwork, even though I didn't really get that feeling watching this. Still, during the fight, Laura had realized a truly horrifying truth.
Oh my god!
But yeah, the melon bread had somehow gotten in her fridge, and she had unknowingly eaten her friend's food. This led to, I guess, a dramatic scene where she confessed to her crime as though she had killed someone. Oh, and also, they played some very sad-sounding violin BGM during this little confession scene. Gee, I wonder if that could be a reference to something. Granted, I don't know if they've used this particular BGM before, but come on, using it here, y'all are just asking for a lawsuit from TMS. Anyway, this was a good scene for Laura, showing her genuine regret for her actions, but again, I'm kind of too busy laughing at how far they've actually taken this parody, not helped by the fact that, as usual, the villain waited until they were done talking. With that, they defeated the monster, and later, through sign language, learned that Kurun was the one who put the melon bread in the fridge, which was wrong on multiple fronts. 1, you really shouldn't put melon bread in the fridge, as it has a cookie crust that'll lose its crunch if you chill it, and 2, you really shouldn't put it in a fridge underwater, as the show itself has already established it gets soggy. So yeah, it didn't really matter if Laura ate it or not, it was already pretty much ruined. Fortunately, Songo's mom brought them some melon breads from the neighboring town, and with that, the episode ended with them partaking in some bread that I'm guessing was partially strawberry flavored. Gee, I wonder if that's a reference to something else. This was a very Naruto episode to say the least, with pretty much all of the characters suddenly developing severe cases of the ham. As a result, it did kind of end up throwing everyone's characterizations a little off, especially Minori here, but at the same time, a show like this was pretty much designed for her brand of over-the-top humor. And on top of that, some good animation that really highlighted the more cartoony nature of everything, and you get an affectionate parody to a very long-running manga and anime that was also borderline copyright infringing. I should know. Compared to all of her episodes so far, this felt like Yoshimi Naruto completely unchained. Characters and even plot points were just ridiculous at times. Again, even if they wanted to drum up attention for their product, it doesn't make a lot of sense to so heavily limit a popular baked good. That is just kind of absurd, and yet that absurdity has kind of been a thing with this series. While I'm not saying they should do this all the time, I can forgive the quiet Minori being even quirkier than usual, especially if there's some good comedy backing her antics. I will say, if anything, Naruto does seem to understand the importance of variance in your comedy, with her jokes here having just enough variety that it doesn't quite become tiresome or repetitive. This was helped by the fact that they had some experienced animators to bring her vision to life with Akira Inagami and the usual duo of Kaneda and Nario. They not only brought in some more fluid animation to keep the jokes running smoothly, but also some unique styles to really highlight the more cartoony nature of these accusation scenes. The actual mystery element behind them was surprisingly well laid out, even though it wasn't totally necessary, as the answer just kind of came out of nowhere. But to be fair, I don't think that was the point of this episode. As I said, I think this is meant to be a parody of popular mystery anime like Conan and Kindaichi. Thus, I don't even mind the lack of actual drama, as I think even that was part of the parody. So overall, this was a fun, hilarious episode, especially if you've seen at least a little bit of a certain boy detective, though I wouldn't blame you if you haven't seen all 1000 episodes so far. Good God. I know this video will more than likely go onto my BitChute channel because YouTube still hasn't gotten around to removing the false strikes, and I do hope this will be the last week we have to do this because I really do want to share these videos on a much larger platform that I know a lot of you are more comfortable watching on. This has been frustrating to say the least, especially after learning how other channels have been affected by the same false claims, and yet YouTube hasn't lifted a finger. If any of your other favorite channels have gotten suspicious claims from Toei, I would encourage them to look into it and try to get them appealed if possible. And until then though, for now my friends, what's that? I've taken your most precious treasure, signed 1412? What does that even mean? And hey, what happened to my Yumiri Hanamori autograph?